also, you know, when he left, we didn't stutter step at all. We came out with Soul for Real, Lost Boys, but they ain't Biggie Small. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then we started having problems with Jodeci, with Suge Knight. You know, he started managing them, and it was hectic. And then Mary and KC broke up, and Suge Knight was in the middle of it, wanting publishing from the first record ever at Uptown, not even from Jodeci's record, just whatever. He came with his bullshit. And you know, we had went through 3 or 4 different gangsters like that. You know, Gene Griffin came with Ted, and we had issues with Gene. So, you know, we were accustomed to that type of shit. And, you know, we from Uptown anyway. So, you know, we had to leave Harlem to move to 4th Avenue and Warren Street in Brooklyn because we were going to have problems just about Teddy Riley. So we've been through this more than once, trust me.
Yeah, no, I mean, loads of people sent questions, but how did that, I mean, what was more disruptive? Was it the Gene Griffin sort of pull with the whole guy and Timmy Gatlin stuff? Was that very disruptive, or was it the Jodeci Mary? Which one did you think really impacted?
I think both of them caused a major threat. So we thought, not really, but we were used to being in the entertainment business where we had avoided any of that gangster shit. You know, we didn't have those guys. They didn't get invited to our parties. They didn't get invited to absolutely anything. You know what I mean? So even when we did major deals and they would come and be like, yo, you know, I could make your deal better. Let me negotiate. Absolutely not. And like I said, like when you're dealing with a genius and you coming with some street bullshit, you're not on his level. He's dealing several rails above you. Yeah. You know, Andre, and I'm speaking about Andre, and I'm not even speaking about me. He, like I said, we would come in a club or a business meeting with, you know, gangster managers and shit like that. Yeah. And when Andre spoke, he's speaking several rails above them. They don't even have nothing to say when he's speaking.
Yeah.
You know, they're not on his level. Like, and so when you with a really smart person and you're not on their level, there's nothing you can say. You got to sit there and learn. That's the smartest thing to do, is be quiet.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that he taught me. Like, you know, don't feel uncomfortable about not knowing something. Just shut the fuck up and listen and learn. Look, listen, and learn.
But you guys grew up as friends, and he was still being a mentor, even though you guys grew up as...
We were like, both of us were like each other's father. That's like my son, and I'm like his son. You know, and that's the best way I could explain it with because I knew him since I was 9 years old. Yeah. And he was my cousin Gabe's best friend. And my cousin Gabe could dance like Michael Jackson, sing like Michael Jackson. And at that time, he, you know, it just didn't work out with him. And me and Andre wound up becoming best friends. So when we would go on the road, when he was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Alonzo would be in the room getting dolled up, looking pretty. And me and Andre would be downstairs taking care of the business. And I would be learning from Andre in terms of business because it was a natural thing, innate with him, with business and public speaking and speaking in general.
Yeah,
you know, he's at another level. And this is where Puffy learns everything he knows. And it comes from not only Andre, but me and all the people at Uptown, because Andre surrounded him with all these people to make sure that he got educated up where he could, and he took it to another level. You know, it's not like, no, I'm not talking like we're the sole reason that he's successful. He was going to be successful. Well, I don't know if he was going to be this successful if he didn't know us.
Yeah.
We set him on that path. And introduced him to the people that he needed to know and surrounded him with the people that he needed. And like I said, Andre didn't accomplish this all on his own. He wasn't this genius guy that didn't have anybody giving him different information every day. He was smart enough to surround himself with people that were specialists at what they did. You know what I mean?
How did you get this? How did your role get decided when you guys started Uptown?
Andre picked it out for me.
Okay.
Andre was like, I said, oh no, Andre, I want to be an A&R. He said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. What I want you to do is I want you to go on the road and sell these records. I want you to be the one that go in the record store. You know, I want you to be the one that sits at the meeting at UMCA and explain what the blueprint is of Uptown and how it's going to roll out, how the music is going to roll out, and how we're going to sell it. Because we talk about our blueprint is totally different than theirs. They have a very, you know, traditional way of working records. Yeah. My thing was we taking it straight to the streets. We taking it straight to the streets with street people. And if you were even able to come to one of our parties or anything, that's because you was fly. And it didn't matter what you was, drug dealer, gangster, college professor, basketball player, football player, and a boxer, you know, whatever. You was invited. Donald Trump, you know what I mean? We had Bruce Willis at our parties, you know. We created Andre created the white parties. I'm not gonna say we created. It was Andre's idea. Andre was the one who brought Russell Simmons and everybody to the Hamptons because we were going to Martha's Vineyard at first. You know what I mean? And Andre was like, no, this is what the Great Gatsby, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to look like. This is how the parties need to look. And this is, you know, but everything, the Great Gatsby. You know what I mean? That was Andre.
Now, some of the questions that some of the people put in, knowing that you were coming on, was how did MCA come to call them the Black music market? Because I know you mentioned they had New Edition, but then when they got Uptown, it was almost as if pretty much I actually used to think MCA was a Black label. But you know, what do you think they did differently to sort of corner the market in those? They weren't
a Black label. They were never a Black label. I can tell you that right now. They had country music. They had country music stars selling 21 million albums at the time. Black music was selling 1, 2, 3 million. If you ever reached 10 million, which we never did on one artist, Puffy sold 10 million albums before on himself. Biggie sold 10 million albums. We never did that. And MCA was never the Black music label. We had a Black music division headed up by Gerald Busby. Lou Salas was one of the A&Rs, the head of A&R on the West Coast, and Timmy Regisford was the A&R on the East Coast, head of A&R. So, but quite frankly, you know, they didn't make the kind of music we made. Our shit was new. We like Motown. We like Motown, and we got bigger than all of that. You know, and Jody Watley was huge, and Lou Sims was huge, and they had huge records. You know what they didn't have? They didn't have a group of artists that made lifestyle records, that made records that represented a company. And the representation is like you look like, walk like, talk like Uptown. And the thing is that if you talk to Al B. Shore, he'll tell you what I mean by saying that. If you talk to Devontae or you know, any of these artists, and even Mary and Puff, they'll tell you what I mean by that. We created a lifestyle in Black music that went on to pass it on to Bad Boy. Bad Boy passed it on to Rockefeller, and you know, so on and so on. There wouldn't even be most of these artists that are still going today. Rodney Jerkins, a lot of these producers or whatever, their influence was Uptown.
Yeah, I mean, you guys definitely. I mean, and I would assume that the sounds, say when New Edition so Belle Biv DeVoe, and
Right.
and all that based on what you guys were doing. They started to change their sounds and everything.
Yeah, they had to come to you know, when we doing New Jack, and then, you know, when we doing hip hop and R&B soul.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Grown and Sexy. And we did that all the way. We kept having hit records. It wasn't that we weren't having hits. Like I said, we had Soul For Real. We had Father MC was still there. He was still doing gold, platinum albums. We had Lost Boys.
Yeah,
Monifa. That's when Heavy took over.
Okay,
and when my girl, she was dope. She was dope. Like Heavy, we left Heavy and we started Harrell Entertainment, New America. We left Uptown, and no, excuse me, we left Uptown. We went to Motown, which was a wrong move for us.
Yeah. Now, so I wanted to get to that because I remember, because I used to read the Billboard magazines, and I remember seeing From Uptown to Motown, and I saw this little cigar and a chair and everything in the promotion.
Right.
And
but Andre lost his mind at that point, right there.
I was like, and I was like, why? No? I mean, because, you know, it was almost like going from taking your Ferrari and going into an old tanker, because Motown it was established, but it wasn't. It might have been more money and stuff, but it just felt like you had to change too much stuff. And I don't know how much was he influenced by, wow, look what Puffy's doing so quickly. Maybe I need to move up. But what was the decision? How did that whole come about?
That played a part of it. I mean, the Motown deal came. We were successful, but we were locked in the MCA. They had a major, probably the majority share of Uptown, you know, a lot of it. And basically we had ran our course at Uptown, and Andre made the wrong decision of going to Motown because he thought about the legacy that was there, and he thought that he could bring some new energy there. But, you know, this is all politics. When you get over there, you gotta work the politics out first before you could even have a clean slate to operate. We didn't have the autonomy to move around like we did at Uptown, but we had more money to move around. One, we didn't have the acts to support that move. We had to start still working Stevie Wonder. There's no disrespect to him, Diana Ross, and all that kind of stuff.
Temptation,
and that wasn't even our genre of music. That we listened to that music like we listened to Marvin Gaye. It was incredible. It's the best music on the planet, but it ain't our music. And it's just like with these kids today, you know, a lot of this mumble rap and whatever other kind of track, whatever. We wouldn't be able to work that properly. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to be there. You got to be a part of it. You got to live it. And that's why we were so successful, because we were a part of it and we were living it. We lived the lyrics. We lived the creative process. It was like everything. I'll tell you this, even the worst days at Uptown was a party.
Wow.
The worst days was the best days. After Gene Griffin slapped the shit out of Andre, we went out and partied like it was 1999.
Okay. Now, I saw Andre's one of his last interviews with Kenny Burns, and he mentioned how he was in an apartment with his girl, and Gene comes to the house at like 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning, and says, "I want to publish it," and Teddy's outside in the car. And, you know, he just, signs it over to him. But, we heard this kind of thing.
That ain't true. That ain't true. I mean, he signed a portion of it over, and when he came to his house, Andre, like I said, when you're dealing with smart guys, you got to remember, they're tougher than any gangster that has ever lived. A smart guy, somebody that's super intelligent, will outsmart you and belittle you at the same time, because that smack that he gave Andre that day in that office was the worst thing. He might as well resided to doing construction after that. Okay, And then when they came to his house with Teddy in the car,
yeah,
yo, I want the publishing from this. Got it. What else you need? The publishing from this, and this. Got it. What else you need? The publishing from that, and that. Got it. As soon as I get in the office, first thing in the morning, sign everything over to you. Got in the office, call the lawyers. Fuck them. That's what. Fuck him. Throw me out a window next time, nigga. I'm not giving up shit until it's the right way to give it up. And if you look at it, they say that Teddy and them went off and started their own record label. Look at every album that they put out at Universal. It says Uptown imprint, small Uptown imprint. You know what that means? Uptown is getting paid.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I learned that dealing in the record business, these guys don't necessarily, they don't have to be tough. You just have to be smart.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, but how much did the Suge Knight thing influence the move to Uptown? That whole sense where you felt, well, Puffy is gone, Mary and Jodeci were looking like they were going over to Suge. How much did that feel like, we're losing a family, let's just take the offer and go? What?
You know, we just kept bringing in new artists, you know, but, you know, we were definitely, we've definitely been, we were shook. It was disturbing. It was terrible. It was terrible. And Suge was a imposing, threatening guy, but you didn't know, like, none of that shit bothered us. None of that mattered. Because at the end of the day, when you look at it, what actually happened to anybody? Nothing. He's the one in jail at the end of the day. I mean, Andre passed away, but when all of it was over, you weren't even on anybody's mind. And what he did to Jodeci is basically disrupt their creative flow and destroy them.
Yeah, because they didn't recover after that. The style went off. Yeah.
And Mary left with Puff. You know what I mean? Mary went off and started making her own records with Puff and without Puff.
Yeah.